All right, so today you're going to work on your own title sequences, okay? So you should have some idea of what you want to do for yours. What is your first step going to be in making your title sequence? Yep, do what you want it to look like first. Very first, do the background. Okay, and then make the entire thing look like you want it to look, and then reverse engineer it, okay? So that it goes off, it starts off screen, then comes on the screen, and then at the very end it's gone, right? I think someone asked last time, could they do 6 seconds? I'd be fine with 6 seconds, okay? We don't need 7 seconds or 8 seconds. That's like too much stuff. We also have these that we have to fill out today too. So this is your assignment submission form. So anytime we have an assignment, this is what gets turned in with the assignment so that I know that you're ready for it to be graded. Otherwise, I'm just sitting there in a void not knowing if you're ready to have something graded or if you just didn't turn it in or what's going on. Yep. All right, so we're going to fill this out together first, and then we'll start working on that bit. Title sequence. Okay, so we'll fill this out and then I'll go through how it works, okay? So project name is Title Opener. It's going to be due on 9/5. Remember that we're not here on Monday of next week, so we'll be here Wednesday. So you'll have the rest of today to work on this after I'm done, and then you'll have part of next class to work on it also, okay? I'll also start introducing I'll introduce the next assignment next class, the page transition stuff, all right? So that way, if you get done, you still have something to work on. We will be creating a title bumper to use at the beginning of each of our projects. The objectives for this are we're creating basic shapes and text, animating using the speed graph and ease, rendering out our movie, and organizing our stuff. All right, if you don't get all of this, it'll be in the video, so you can always jot it down later too, okay? For the turn-in, you'll be turning in the artwork. So remember I said all your sketches that you've been doing should be of title sequences, like different ways that you want to lay this out. So the one that you've chosen, you'll turn that in along with this, okay? You'll also turn in your project folder with your After Effects file and your movie inside it. And I'll only need your latest After Effects file and your latest movie. If you have 10 movies because you rendered out 10 of them, I only need the latest one, okay? So your movie should be 5 to 6 seconds, 5 or 6 seconds, 30 frames a second, 960 by 540. Like I said before, most of the assignments, like 11 out of 12 assignments that we have, will all be 960 by 540 at 30 frames a second. The time will change, but the rest will be the same. Make sure you put your name on the sheet. And then put MACA 1900. And then you don't need to put intro to motion graphics. You can just put motion graphics on there if you want to just put that. And then the points possible for this is 3. All right, so the way these sheets work is you finish an assignment, you take your folder, I tell people to copy it to a safe area just so you have a backup of everything. Copy it to a safe area, delete all the junk that I don't need. If you put pictures in there that I don't want, if you put you saved your file 1,000 times and I don't need 1,000 different versions of it. Delete everything but your last file, your last movie. All the other folder structure can stay where it is. You take that folder and you're going to put it on the server. And I'll show you next class where to put all that stuff. Then you're going to take this paper and you're going to turn it in and say, I'm ready. You don't need to say it, but you're going to basically say, I'm ready to be graded. Okay? So when I go home, I take all the stuff off the server, I take the stack of papers, and I just go through and say, okay, this person's ready to get their stuff graded. I check out their stuff, and I give you points. This one is based out of 3 points. If I look at the stuff up here and I say, you did everything that was required of you, you get 3 points. If you're missing half of it, you may get 1 point, or you may get 0 points, or whatever it is. Okay? I'll mark it up here. Sometimes I'll just put a little indicator, like if you didn't organize your stuff, I'll put an arrow saying you didn't organize your stuff, or I'll circle it in red. That should be your indicator to say you didn't organize it. Regardless of what you get for a grade, I hand the papers back to you when I'm done with all of them. You look at your grade. If you're satisfied with your grade, you sign the paper, give it back to me, and then I put it in Canvas, and now that grade is like locked in. Okay? If you get it back and you say, I want to fix this up, you have 1 week after you've submitted it back, or after I've given you the paper back, to fix it up and then resubmit it. And when you do resubmit it, you fix all the stuff that I've mentioned, you check this resubmit, you give me your same stuff and your paper. I go through, I check it out, most of the time it's better, and then I give it back to you, you see the grade, you sign it, and then you give it back to me and I put it in Canvas. Okay? If there's a, for instance, where I need an extra week or an extra 2 weeks, talk to me ahead of time. Let me know, hey, this week is really busy, I have this coming up and that coming up, can I get an extra week? Most of the time it'll be fine. But what I don't want to have is 7 weeks down the lane, you're like, okay, I'm going to redo my title sequence. I don't want that, okay? Any questions on this? Pretty straightforward. So make sure you turn one in with your stuff, otherwise it won't get graded. Make sure when I return it that you sign it and then give it back to me when you're happy with your, well, not when you're happy with your grade, but when you're ready for that grade to be input, okay? Because I don't input anything into Canvas without having that sheet. Cool? Cool. All right. So for your project, you should work in your same title card that you had before, okay? As far as the file, everything's together. All your folders are still there. You'll see that I've gotten a bit unorganized. All my compositions are not in my composition folder, so I'm just going to throw those into my composition folder. And then you're going to make a new composition. You'll call it whatever your last name is, final title, 960, 540, 30 frames a second. And then if you're going 5 seconds or you're going 6 seconds, whatever it is. You can always change it, so if you get to 5 and you need another second, add another second. If you're at 6 and you want to cut it, then you can cut it. So you go in there and you do your stuff. I'm not going to walk you through another one because we've already done several, okay? We've already seen several. I am going to show you a different trick, though, to figure out how to animate when to animate your stuff, okay? I'm going to add a null inside here. So under Layer, New, Null Object, I'm going to start off with this, okay? This is a new thing. We have not done this yet. So let's say that I'm trying to figure out how I want my items to come into my scene, okay? Sometimes you go there, like it happened in the class earlier today, the first thing they animated, they set a keyframe at 0, the next keyframe was at 2 seconds. That allows no time at all for all the stuff to come in, right? Because you want a nice flow of all of your information feeding into this title card. So when you look at like this one, boom, 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 right? Everything just kind of like flows right onto the screen and then it goes away, right? So how fast should that happen? So that's what we're going to do with this null. I'm going to take this and I'm going to put markers in at a regular interval, okay? If you can do this on a regular layer, but a null is great because it doesn't render. It doesn't take up any extra memory. It's just something nice to kind of use. I'm going to right click And I don't use it this way, so I'm trying to see if it's even in here. Time transform. I don't know. Somewhere in here, I'm sure it's at somewhere. But we're going to add a marker, okay? On your numeric keypad, on your keyboard above the number 9, there's an asterisk. That asterisk will create a marker on that layer, right? No, above 9. Is it 8? No, it's 9, yeah. It's the star one. You guys have oh, on the numeric side, yes, sorry. On the right side of your keyboard. I'm going to say, your keyboards are defective. So we want to hit that asterisk, the other one doesn't work, okay? So what we want to do is we want to set these at regular intervals. So what I tell people to do is if you get kind of like a beat, like that, and that's how you punch the key, then you'll get like a regular interval along the way. And depending on how fast you go is how fast basically you're kind of expecting your stuff to come in. If you look at one of these like this, you can see it happens pretty quick. Like that's like slow, because everything's already out by the time I've hit it a couple times. If I go to this one, right, see that's still too slow. So what we're going to do is I'm going to hit it, and I'm going to try to get just a regular spacing of these points, okay? So if I just click it here, it adds one, but I don't want to have to like scoot this up and do that, scoot this up and do that. That's horrible. I'm going to hit the space bar, and then I'm going to hit the asterisk in that kind of rhythm thing. There we go. Doesn't have to be perfect, it just gets us close. Because right now I have all these markers that are pretty close to evenly spaced, so when I start lining up my animations, it's much easier to say, okay, I'm going to have one animation here, one animation here, one animation there, one animation there. Okay, and that means that they're going to end at that point, not start. Okay, so just to give you an example of what that would look like, if I create a piece of text. Another tip, never stretch your text out. Anytime you want to adjust the size of your text, never grab this. Okay, that is a no-no because it distorts your text and it doesn't look good. Use this to control the size of it, and then when you move it, make sure you're grabbing the whole thing. Let me shrink this down a little bit. All right. So I'm just going to duplicate this. Come on. That should be good enough. 4 things, right? All right, so I'm going to take all 4 of these things, I'm going to rewind it, I'm going to hit position, and I'll just go up to, let's say, there and set an end position for each one. I'll rewind it and scoot them off screen. I do my easy ease, I do my graph stuff. I want the speed, in this case, at the end. Oops. Double check. Yep, that's good. Maybe a little bit too quick, so I'm going to just pull that speed down some. No, that's good there. Okay. Nope. No, way too much now. Better. Okay. I'm going to zoom out. Cool. So I know where this one's going to end, so I'm going to line that one up with this first marker here. Then I'll go to the next marker and line up the end of that one. Go to the next marker, line up the end with that one. Go to the next marker, line up the end with that one. Okay, so now what I should get is a pretty like evenly spaced animation. It's out of order, of course. Why didn't anyone tell me that? Nobody cares, right? Alright, so let's put that back here and put this one back there. Put this one back here and then put this one back there. Okay, very effective kind of animation. Now we don't want to have this be the same thing the entire time, so you may want to break it up. I may want to have something happen a lot quicker. So if I said hello, I may want to have a pause and then I want to have is it me, like faster. So I may want to take these three and scoot them down to the next one. Okay, so now I'm getting more of a collection of things. So if I did my first and last name, I may want those to be boom, boom, and then a little bit of a space, and then MACA 1900, and then a little bit of space, and then 01, assignment 1, whatever it is, okay? You could also add a marker in between. So if you're really trying to like get something to move really quick, like a sequence of things, I'll just throw a marker in the middle of this one and throw a marker in the middle of that one. You don't need the markers to do that. It just makes it easier for you to see. And then all I'm going to do is just kind of bunch these a bit closer together. Okay, and so we're getting more of this like pattern of things happening. Now this, without music, looks kind of silly, it's not look silly, it doesn't look as effective. Once you start putting stuff to music and you start getting stuff in your demo reel, the fact that this is already at some beat will make that world a little bit easier, okay? Just kind of visualizing or trying to line things up this way will make things easier when you get to the point where you're adding music to your animations. They all go hand in hand. Cool. All right, so you can use the null thing. I recommend use the null thing. Try it out. Once you are satisfied with your title card, that's not the one I want to do. This one. Yes. Everything comes up, and everything then stays for 2 seconds and then goes away. So your stuff comes up, stays so I can read it, and then goes away. Okay. Once you're there and everything is happy, I'm going to turn on motion blur for all of my things. So I hit Control A, I turn on motion blur, I turn on motion blur. I can double check it, make sure everything still looks good. It should. Yep. And then I'm going to actually render this out, okay? So far all this stuff is like stuck in After Effects. We need to get it out so that people can see it. So under File Export, we would say Add to Media Encoder Render Queue. What this is going to do is it opens up, yes. It opens up Media Encoder, which is another Adobe product. So if you have the Adobe Suite, you can use Media Encoder too, just make sure it's installed. All we need to do is make sure this is set to H.264. Click on the output file. Make sure it goes into output. And then I will call this Sarcona _ title card. And then say play. And what that's going to do is it takes that composition I had selected, puts it inside Media Encoder, and makes a movie out of it. Okay? So that's how we're able to then take it and view it. So if I click on this now, there's my movie. I can just double click it, and it looks gorgeous. With the exception that I put 02 page transitions, and this is not page transitions. So I will jump back into After Effects. I will change this to 01. Come on. Title card. And oops. There we go. And now I will export that again. It jumps right in. I put it in the same spot. Output there, yes. Go. Don't be afraid to have, if you have to re-render it 2 times, 3 times, 100 times, whatever it takes. The more comfortable you get with that process, the easier it's going to be later on, okay? Just a fair warning that media encoder on these stations does take like 5 minutes to open up. So when you do hit that, it will go and take 5 minutes before you see anything open up, and then it'll be media encoder, and then it'll do this, okay? Cool. Questions on that yet? No? Awesome. So